When you get real and get honest and you face God and face your partner, something beautiful starts to happen. You start to introduce grace.
It's so amazing how God gives you more blessings than you can even imagine when you do His will.
When they start looking through that lens of the atonement through the life experiences, it doesn't change how hard that experience is, but it changes how they process it, and then it allows them to grow from it.
Hello and welcome to Latter-day Profiles. I'm Brian Howard. We're here in St. George, Utah, outside in the sun today, and joining me is Eric Leavitt. Eric, welcome.
Thank you, Brian. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Oh, what a pleasure to have you down here in southern Utah. The Leavitt Group is well known, and you are the chairman and CEO. You were the 2023. That's right where we're at, the Utah Business CEO of the Year, which is a great compliment.
It was.
You serve on so many boards, board of directors, the Council of Insurance Agents, Zions First National Bank, Southwest Applied Tech, and Southern Utah University, which I attended, so it's dear to me. Let's talk about it. This group is, let's give people a thumbnail sketch. People here at Leavitt Group, what does that mean? You got 3,500 employees in 26 states around the country. Tell me a little bit about your company.
Yes, it's a great company. It's a privilege for me to work in it and to lead it. We are independent insurance brokers. As you suggest, we have offices all over the country. As independent insurance brokers, we represent a number of insurance companies, and we seek to place insurance and provide advice to consumers as well as businesses around the country. We have a fairly unique business model in that we have these 250 locations across the country, and each of these locations are co-owned with our company, but run by the local person. And the goal of the Leavitt Group is to provide resources to those local people that would be much greater than they could have on their own. And we seek to partner with entrepreneurial people of goodwill, and it's been a great business for us.
How did that business model evolve? How did that come about?
It's a great story. Yeah, the business actually began with my parents. My parents are the founders of the business, and my father graduated from, at the time, Branch Agricultural College. It's now SUU. And he decided he wanted to be a school teacher. As is the case, unfortunately, today still, school teachers do not make a lot of money. And so he had to augment his income by selling life insurance in the summer. And he came to understand that he was darn good at it. And so he decided to forego his education career. And as his business grew, he came to find out that he grew up in Nevada, and at the time Las Vegas was growing quite rapidly. This would be in the 50s, the early 50s, the early to mid 50s. He found that most of his business was now in Las Vegas, and so he had to make a choice. Did he leave his family in Cedar City and find a partner to help him in Las Vegas, or did he move to Las Vegas with his family? My parents made the choice in 1958 to stay in Cedar City, and he partnered with his brother, who he brought into the business, and they agreed that that he would give my uncle, his brother, the opportunity to own 40% of the business. And they came to understand that that was a very powerful model, and he replicated that model mostly throughout Utah in the early stages of the 50s, late 50s and early 60s. But that model has remained true to us today, and we have roughly, we'll call it 400 or 500 of these individuals that we've partnered with in the same way. We think it's actually quite a nice thing that this business model was created by two brothers who loved each other, who had a desire to be fair with one another and seek to align their interests together so that in all things they could be harmonious. And that's what we've sought to do since then.
Keep the same business model.
That's
familial,
correct.
Even though you're not technically family, you're still family.
It's very much a family-focused and oriented business model.
Of course, in southern Utah, Dixie and Ann Leavitt, people know those names, household names, and done a lot of great good in southern Utah for sure.
They have, thank you. My parents are remarkable people. They're still living. My father's 94. Is still an active sealer in the Cedar City Temple. Oh, wow. My mother's 91. She is right alongside with him working in the temple, and they're just terrific people. We're seeing the signs of age that happens as a natural course of mortality, but they remain vibrant, and their mental acuity remains sharp, and we're grateful for that.
Wow, and good for them, because they had 6 boys, right? To raise. What was that like growing up?
Yeah.
And all the boys have been very successful. Of course, your brother Mike Leavitt been governor and had many governmental positions, and all of your family very successful. I'm sure, though, in the early days, it was maybe a little rough and tumble. Maybe?
It was rough and tumble, as you would come to expect. We always loved each other. We were always very close. That remains true today. There's 22 years between oldest to youngest. Mike is the oldest, who's 72 now, and my youngest brother Matthew is 50. But we had our share of broken furniture and stitches and a few broken bones here and there. But it was never out of anger. It was always out of good fun that maybe got out of control. We would often. I'll just say this: we could hear, and at night when we were supposed to be in bed, we could hear the footfall of our father getting out of bed to come chastise us, and we shaped up pretty quickly when we could hear that. But no, it was a. I'll say this: my father was growing his business, our business, a lot, and my parents had a really valuable division of kind of responsibility and labor. My mother, I'll just say this: we are consistent in having folks know that our mother is a founder of our business too. While she didn't work in it day to day, raising children was our parents' #1 priority, and they covenanted with one another and with the Lord that they would seek to raise righteous children, but at the same time creating the opportunity for them and for future families by building this business. And my mother was an equal partner in every way in that, but she raised us to a large degree. That's not to say that my father was not there; he was, but we watched with great with great success our father's work ethic and his honesty and his integrity, while at the same time being tutored by this very nurturing and loving mother who showed us really both sides of the same coin: the importance of hard work, the importance of diligence, but also the importance of kindness, love, charity, and compassion.
And great reflection on them, the success of all their boys, right?
Well, we've all been blessed. We've been blessed, each of us, with terrific wives who have tempered us in ways that have become quite necessary, and each of us in various degrees have found success, both in terms of our temporal lives, but also our spiritual lives and our family lives.
Have you modeled, obviously, when you stepped into the business, extremely busy, growth phenomenal, modeled that after your parents in your own life?
Yeah, we have, and the core principles of our business have remained the same over the 70+ years of our existence, and they're really driven by a few key principles: honesty and integrity being at the core, communicating with reason and civility, kindness, the ability and willingness to adapt. All of those things remain a constant, but the business obviously changes as the scope gets greater. The more people you bring in, challenges become kind of broader and more acute sometimes. But at the end of the day, Brian, our goal has always been to model what our parents created, which is this kind of unique partnership between like-minded and like-hearted individuals who seek to align interests to drive forward towards success.
Let's talk about your career path a little bit. So you played football, right? So you played for Dixie. Came out of college, went to Southern Utah
did.
as well, and
Yeah.
University of Utah, so well traveled.
Yeah.
And then traveled to New York to finish your degree. Did you, at that point, you told me earlier that your main goal was to get out of Cedar City because
Yeah.
you grew up there and
Yeah.
it's like you want to see the world. What were you thinking about at that point as far as career-wise?
Yeah,
Where did you
it's a
wanna go?
great question. I'll just say this. Academic success and academic seriousness did not come early to me. I was not a serious student until after my mission. My mission, as it does for many men and women, creates this kind of crucible event in which you have to decide who you are or who you seek to become. And because it's awfully hard, unless you make the decision that you're going to be diligent, it becomes harder and harder. And it's only after you create this decision to be diligent does joy, happiness, and success come. And that's been a pattern throughout my life. But I'll just say, when I was younger, my father was always really prominent. Not only because of his business success, but because of his service in government. And so I was kind of a teenager in what I would call the pinnacle of my father's prominence. He ran for governor in 1976, and I'll be frank, my identity as a teenager was more about being Dixie Leavitt's son
Sure.
than being Eric Leavitt. And as a kind of a selfish, self-focused person, I didn't take the time to be humble and grateful for the pathway that my father allowed me to walk along with him. I became maybe a little resentful and just said,
Sure.
I want to be who I
yourself.
am. So I essentially made this commitment to myself that I'm not, I'm going to be my own person. Unfortunately, that commitment wasn't I'm going to rebel and I'm going to do things that are maybe inconsistent with what the Lord would have me do. But it was I'm going to do something different. And so after my mission, I made the decision, quietly at the time, that I wasn't going to be in the business. I remember the moment at which I let my father know that, because frankly, honestly, I think it was my dad and mom's dream that every one of us would follow into the business, which, in retrospect was quite unrealistic, and they see that now. But I was the first to say, hey, I don't want to do this. And my parents were serving as mission leaders in England at the time, and I remember gingerly telling my dad, was in business school at the time, I don't think I want to do this. And it was a bitter pill for him. But he overcame it quickly, changed his paradigm to his credit, and there wasn't anyone more proud of the success that I had early in my career before joining the company. I ultimately joined the company in 1992 when my brother Mike was elected as governor, and I was facing the choice at the time also of moving my family to Houston, Texas. With all due respect to Houston, I'd been there a few times and it was really hot. I'm sure I didn't get a Chamber of Commerce day there when I was there, but it aligned up well, the timing of Mike's election and my availability to move to the family business, and I did that in 1992.
That's right. Well, you did. You joined the company back in 92, and then you took over when your brother Mike ran for governor, became governor of the state of Utah. But it was a time of incredible growth, and so the thought is, how do you handle that? How do you manage that when you go from more familial to lots and lots of leaders?
Yeah, it's a great question, Brian. I'll just say that we've been deeply blessed to attract really good people to our business. Early on, much of that growth in really high-quality teammates has come from our association with Southern Utah University. We've been able to attract the best and the brightest, especially those who want to remain in Southern Utah. Before Southern Utah's pretty significant growth, there weren't a lot of professional employment opportunities, especially in Cedar City, and so that helped us a lot. I think our business model is really attractive to many. We bring the opportunity for individuals who seek to grow their own business but don't have the scale or the resources to do it to join us. In our business, the insurance business, often if you're going to have some sort of a transaction or a sale event. It's to someone that's going to come write you a big check and you're out of the business. Ours is different. We seek to partner with people who want to remain in the business and to grow their business. But the reality is, it's the main way we've grown this business is identifying correct and true principles and maintaining them, and just year after year after year just adhering to it. And one of the great things about being older is that you see the pattern that comes from identifying true principles, adhering to them, and as you look back, you think, well, it didn't feel like we were doing that much, that we were doing the special things that clearly have been manifest. But if you look back, you say, wow, that's amazing. And I remain amazed, frankly. When I joined the company, we probably had 200 employees across the group or less, and had $10 million in revenue, and we'll hit $500 million in revenue next year with 3,500 employees. And it just happened, little by little by little, finding really good people to join us, finding people who will help us go out and find more customers, and here we are. It's really cool.
You recorded a short bit as part of being CEO of the Year about your definition of success. So you really enjoy being 62. It reminded me of President Hinckley and Mike Wallace, when Mike Wallace asked him about a church run by old men, and President Hinckley said, "Isn't it great?"
Yeah.
Not blown about by every wind of doctrine kind of thing. Give you a lot of experience over time.
Yeah, it does. I would not trade being older for being younger. There are things I miss, of course. I'm an avid golfer, and I've noticed that my ability to golf in the same way, or the distances I get from the same clubs, have changed over time. But I wouldn't trade any of it for what I've gained as a result. There are many experiences that I wouldn't necessarily want to repeat, but if asked, if it was the choice of losing that wisdom, and the only way I would keep it is to repeat it, I would repeat it in a heartbeat. And that includes the most painful things I've experienced in my life. And so, you refer to what's the definition of success? As you get older, that changes. It becomes a lot more focused on really the principles of the gospel, the principles of lasting joy, and that while financial or temporal evidences of success are attractive and in some ways empowering to help you drive toward elements of real joy, they are in truth illusory and not the source of real joy. And so I have found that the sources of real joy have come from a family perspective, watching my children become parents, being a grandfather. From a business perspective, it's building a business to create opportunity for those who want to build their own families and their own lives. And frankly, to create a workplace where people feel valued, and they feel safe, and they feel heard. And so that's really what drives me now. It's less about what my personal balance sheet looks like. It's really how much joy can I receive from blessing, from acting in a way that creates blessings for others.
As I was, looking up some information, then of course with this accolade of, CEO of the Year, lots of people chimed in about you and your leadership. You've created a company culture that people love. Is that partly the same thing you talked about, gospel-oriented, living those principles, and incorporate that into your culture? How does that work?
Yeah, look, the principles of the gospel are really paramount in not just my life personally or my family's life personally. It is in our company too. In a kind of more quasi-secular setting,
sure,
you have to frame it in a way that is maybe palatable and not offensive to those who who might view it as being pushy or are trying to assert our religiosity on them.
Sure.
But what we find is it's universal in its acceptance, and you're right. Culture, our company's culture, is a really important part of who we are, who we seek to become. I think it's also really important to note that the up and coming generation of workers yearn for that, and they yearn for it because there is a dearth of it in the world in general. You know, ideas of principles like value, value and meaning in the workplace. We really strive to show that. You know, it manifests itself in opportunities for public service at the workplace. It's creating an environment where people satisfy the innate need to belong. So we create this this feeling that we belong together in ways that are really powerful. That every job has meaning, and every job is contributive to the company's full success.
You know, I'm just thinking as parents are a great example, very successful, priorities are important, family, church service. How has that been for you? Obviously, you've been able to be active in the church and be with your family. How do you make that work?
Well, my church engagement in the church has been a really valuable thing for me, both in terms of my spiritual life, but frankly, as my ability to become an effective leader. That's been helpful. I've been blessed to be to have been asked to play a leadership role. I served as a bishop for 5+ years and as a stake president, and those were really powerfully accretive experiences to me in terms of who I am becoming. I love this idea of becoming. That we're constantly in this process. I watched my parents at 94 and 91 going through the same process of becoming, the church has been the church, my activity in it, and the principles that I've learned through engaging in callings as well as ministering to those in need have just been paramount in their forming of who I am and whom I'm becoming.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, you reflect back. It's good to be the age you are. Wouldn't go back and change things, even the painful things. Clearly, at this point, you can see the hand of the Lord guiding you along.
100%.
Yeah. As you look back, upon those decisions, how does that make you feel as you look back and say, "Oh, I can see now why I did what I did"?
It is a pattern that repeats without variation. Is that and we all experience it. One of the things that I learned from being primarily a bishop that did not dawn on me until my late 40s is that in every life, there is some challenge. Most of the time, as casual observers of our friends and neighbors, we don't see it or hear it. And as a bishop, you come to understand very quickly that under every roof there is a challenge. And the idea of the idea of opposition in all things and the ability to face adversity with faith and with an understanding of God's love for us, and that He doesn't leave us alone, but He allows us to tarry in that adversity for our good, is such a valuable principle. And it is only after we faithfully, and not always faithfully at all times, but we faithfully look to Him for comfort, that He will show to us the wisdom of the trial that He either allowed us to tarry in, or in some cases, arguably maybe placed in our path, or allowed us through our incorrect use of agency to enter into. Why that is wisdom for us, and I've seen that over and over in my life. my wife Melissa and I have had a lot of challenges in our life. I won't suggest they're marital challenges, for the record.
Yeah.
Although marriage is hard and it is challenging. But together, we've been married 40 years. We just celebrated that. As we look back, we in unison would say the most challenging things we've faced, whether it's in our parenting or whether it's health issues, they are that's the leaven in the loaf that's allowed us to become who we're becoming. And we know that from here there will be more, but our ability to learn the pattern that God does not forsake us, He will not leave us alone. And in that moment in which we believe that He may be leaving us alone, when we reach to Him, He will comfort us and help us get to the other side, and we will look back and say, I see why you did that.
Eric Leavitt, Executive Chairman and CEO of Leavitt Group. Amazing man. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming to visit today. Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you.